What happens when a Hollywood Alistair sits down for what should be a routine chat show appearance, only to find herself facing accusations that cut deeper than any movie role she's ever played? Today we're diving into the explosive moment when Salma Hayek walked off Kelly Clarkson Show after a fiery accusation that left everyone in the studio stunned. Before we get into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you think really happened here. The Kelly Clarkson Show had been running smoothly that Tuesday afternoon. The audience was buzzing with excitement as they waited for the next guest, Academy Award-nominated actress Salma Hayek, to discuss her latest film project. Kelly, known for her warm interviewing style and genuine connection with celebrities, seemed relaxed as she reviewed her notes during the commercial break. "We're back in 30 seconds," called out the floor manager as makeup artists made final touch-ups to both women. Salma, elegant in a deep emerald dress that complemented her striking features, appeared composed, but there was something in her eyes, a guardedness that those who knew her well might have recognized. She had been in the industry long enough to handle any interview with grace, but today felt different somehow. "And we're back with the incredible Salma Hayek," Kelly announced to the cameras, her signature bright smile lighting up the screen. "Salma, thank you so much for being here today." "Thank you for having me, Kelly," Salma replied, settling into the plush interview chair. Her accent, still beautifully present after decades in Hollywood, gave her words a melodic quality that audiences always found captivating. "So, let's talk about your new film," Kelly began, leaning forward with genuine interest. "You're playing a character who's dealing with some pretty heavy themes about identity and belonging. How did you connect with this role?" Salma's face brightened as she discussed her craft. "You know, Kelly, I think every actor brings pieces of themselves to every character they play. This woman, she's struggling with questions about where she belongs, about whether she's truly accepted in spaces where she's worked so hard to earn her place." "That must resonate with you personally," Kelly responded, her tone shifting slightly. There was something in her voice, a subtle edge that made Salma's shoulders tense almost imperceptibly. "What way do you mean?" Salma asked, her smile remaining, but her eyes becoming more focused, more alert. Kelly glanced down at her cards, then back up at Salma. "Well, I mean, you've talked in previous interviews about feeling like you had to work twice as hard to prove yourself in Hollywood, about facing certain, let's say, challenges because of your background. The studio fell into that particular kind of quiet that happens when an audience senses a shift in energy." Salma's publicist, sitting in the front row, looked up from her phone with a slight frown. "I think every person who comes from a different culture faces adjustments when they move to a new country." Salma replied carefully. "But I've been very fortunate in my career, right? But there have been some specific incidents, haven't there?" Kelly pressed, her journalist instincts seeming to take over from her usual chat show persona. "I mean, there were those reports about conflicts on various film sets, tensions with certain directors and producers." Salma's composure remained intact, but those watching closely could see her jaw tighten slightly. "Kelly, I'm not sure what you're referring to specifically, but I've always maintained professional relationships with everyone I've worked with, even with Marcus Davidson," Kelly asked, naming a prominent Hollywood producer known for his temper and controversial comments. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Salma's eyes flashed, but her voice remained steady. "I've worked with Marcus on 2 films. Our working relationship was professional. But wasn't there an incident during the filming of Desert Moon, where you reportedly had a heated argument with him in front of the entire crew?" Kelly continued, her tone taking on the quality of a prosecutor presenting evidence. Salma shifted in her chair, her elegant posture becoming more rigid. "Kelly, I'm wondering why we're focusing on rumors and gossip instead of discussing my current project, which is why I understood I was here today." The audience was completely silent now, sensing the growing tension between the two women. Kelly's producers in the control room were frantically gesturing, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the confrontation play out. "I'm just trying to get to the truth," Kelly said, her voice rising slightly. "There have been multiple reports over the years about your behavior on set, about demands you've made, about conflicts with other actors and crew members." "My behavior," Salma repeated, her voice dropping to a dangerously quiet level. "Kelly, what exactly are you accusing me of?" "I'm not accusing you of anything," Kelly backtracked quickly, but then seemed to double down. I'm asking about patterns that seem to follow you from project to project. Sources close to several productions have mentioned difficulties, tensions, what some have called diva-like behavior. The words hit Salma like a slap. Her composure, maintained through decades of navigating Hollywood's treacherous waters, began to crack. Diva-like behavior, she repeated slowly, as if tasting something bitter. Look, Salma, I respect you as an artist, Kelly continued, seemingly unaware of how deeply her words were cutting. But there's been talk in the industry, people saying that success might have changed you, that you've become difficult to work with. Salma's eyes blazed as she stared at Kelly across the small space between their chairs. Difficult to work with, she repeated, her voice now carrying the full weight of years of frustration. Kelly, do you realize what you're saying to me, right? Now, Kelly seemed to sense she had crossed a line, but instead of backing down, she leaned forward. Salma, I'm just reporting what's been said in the industry. Multiple sources have mentioned incidents where you've been well challenging to deal with. Challenging, Salma said, standing up from her chair. The studio lights caught the fire in her eyes as she looked down at Kelly. Let me ask you something, Kelly. When a male actor stands up for his vision, fights for his character, demands excellence from his fellow performers, what do they call him? Kelly shifted uncomfortably in her seat, suddenly aware that the interview had taken a turn she hadn't anticipated. Salma, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm trying to say. No, Kelly, I understand perfectly, Salma interrupted, her voice rising but maintaining its controlled elegance. When a man does it, they call him passionate, dedicated, a perfectionist. When I do it, when any woman does it, especially a woman, who looks like me, speaks like me, comes from where I come from, I'm difficult, I'm a diva. The audience sat in stunned silence, some shifting uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the light, entertaining interview they had expected to witness. That's not what I meant, Kelly protested, but her voice lacked conviction, isn't it? Salma challenged, taking a step closer to Kelly's chair. Tell me, Kelly, have you ever asked a male actor about being difficult? Have you ever sat across from, say, Russell Crowe, Christian Bale, any of the men who are famous for their intensity on set, and asked them about diva behavior? Kelly's mouth opened and closed, searching for words that wouldn't come. The control room was in chaos, with producers unsure whether to cut the feed or let the confrontation continue. You want to talk about Marcus Davidson? Salma continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. Let me tell you about Marcus Davidson. He told me, in front of a room full of people, that maybe I should stick to playing maids and mistresses because that's what audiences expect from someone like me. Gasps rippled through the studio audience. Kelly's face went pale. And when I told him that was unacceptable, when I stood up for myself and for every Latina actress who has had to fight against those stereotypes, I became difficult. When I demanded to be treated with the same respect given to my white colleagues, I became a diva. Salma, I had no idea, Kelly said weakly, but Salma wasn't finished. You had no idea because you didn't bother to find out the truth, Salma shot back. You took gossip, rumors, whispers from people who were angry that I refused to stay in the box they built for me, and you decided to ambush me with them on national television. Kelly tried to regain control of the situation. I wasn't trying to ambush you. I was trying to have an honest conversation about the challenges women face in Hollywood. By perpetuating those exact challenges, Salma's laugh was bitter. Kelly, do you see the irony here? You're doing exactly what the industry has done to me for 20 years. You're taking my strength and calling it a flaw. The tension in the studio was palpable. Camera operators weren't sure where to focus. Caught between their professional duty and the raw human drama unfolding before them, I've worked with some of the most demanding directors in the business, the authority of someone who had earned her place through sheer determination. I've given everything to my craft. I've learned English. I've studied acting techniques. I've fought for roles that showed the complexity and beauty of my culture, instead of the stereotypes Hollywood loves to perpetuate. And that's admirable, Kelly interjected, trying to find common ground. Admirable, Salma's eyebrows shot up. Kelly, it shouldn't be admirable. It should be expected. Every actor should fight for their craft. Every person should stand up for their dignity. The fact that when I do it, it's seen as problematic, that tells you everything you need to know about the real problem here. Kelly's producers were frantically signaling from the control room, but she seemed frozen in her chair, realizing the magnitude of what was happening. "You want to know about conflicts on set?" Salma asked, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Let me tell you about real conflicts. Like when a director told me to lose my accent because it wasn't sexy enough. Like when a producer suggested I should be grateful for any role because there weren't many opportunities for someone like me. Like when I was told that speaking up about these things would hurt my career." "I'm sorry," Kelly said, and for the first time her apology sounded genuine. "I can see that I've hurt you, and that wasn't my intention." Salma studied Kelly's face for a long moment. "Your intention doesn't matter, Kelly. Impact matters. And the impact of what you've done here today is that you've given credibility to every person who has ever tried to diminish my accomplishments by calling me difficult." The studio fell into complete silence. Even the camera operators seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. "But here's what I want your audience to understand," Salma said, turning slightly to address the cameras directly. "Being called difficult has never stopped me. It's never made me compromise my standards or accept less than I deserve. And it never will." Kelly sat motionless as Salma's words hung in the air. The camera caught every nuance of the moment, the raw authenticity that no script could have produced. But instead of letting the powerful moment stand, Kelly made a choice that would define the rest of the interview. "Salma, I appreciate your passion," Kelly said, her voice taking on a patronizing tone that made several audience members visibly cringe. "But I think you might be overreacting to some legitimate industry concerns." The words hit Salma like a physical blow. Her eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment she seemed speechless. The audience collectively held its breath, sensing that something irreversible was about to happen. "Overreacting," Salma repeated slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Kelly, did you just tell me I'm overreacting to decades of discrimination and prejudice?" Kelly realized her mistake immediately, but it was too late to take it back. "No, that's not what I meant. I just think that maybe some of these situations could have been handled differently." "How?" Salma demanded, her composure finally cracking completely. "How should I have handled being told I wasn't American enough for leading roles but too educated for the stereotypical parts they wanted to give me? How should I have handled being passed over for roles that went to actresses with half my experience, but the right look, the right accent, the right connections?" "I don't know," Kelly admitted, but she couldn't stop herself from adding, "But maybe working with people instead of against them might have led to better outcomes." The studio erupted in a low murmur of shock. Even the production assistants looked horrified at what their host had just said. Salma stared at Kelly for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. "Working with people. You mean compromising my integrity, accepting less than I'm worth, smiling when I'm being disrespected, staying quiet when I witness injustice. That's what you call working with people?" "That's not what I said," Kelly protested weakly. "It's exactly what you said," Salma shot back. "You're telling me that standing up for myself, for my worth, for my dignity, is the problem. Me that the solution to discrimination is for me to be more accommodating to the people discriminating against me." Kelly tried to interrupt, but Salma held up her hand. "Let me finish," Salma said with an authority that commanded absolute silence. "You invited me here under the pretense of discussing my work, my art, my new film. Instead, you ambushed me with gossip and rumors designed to tear down my reputation. And when I defended myself with facts, with truth, with the reality of what I've experienced, you told me I was overreacting." The cameras captured every word, every gesture, every emotion playing across both women's faces. "You know what, Kelly?" Salma said, reaching down to unclip her microphone. "This conversation perfectly illustrates everything that's wrong with how women like me are treated in this industry. We're expected to be grateful for whatever scraps we're thrown, and when we demand more, when we demand better, we're labeled as problems." "Salma, please don't leave," Kelly said, finally understanding the gravity of what was happening. "Let's talk about this. Let's have a real conversation." Salma paused in her removal of the microphone and looked directly at Kelly. "We could have had a real conversation. You could have asked me about my journey, about the barriers I've overcome, about the doors I've opened for other Latina actresses. You could have asked me about my craft, my passion, my dedication to telling stories that matter." "We can still do that," Kelly said desperately. "No, Kelly, we can't. Salma replied, standing and smoothing her dress with the same elegance she had maintained throughout the ordeal, because you've shown me, and everyone watching, exactly how you see me. Not as an accomplished actress, not as a woman who has broken barriers and paved the way for others, but as a difficult diva whose success needs to be questioned and whose character needs to be examined. The silence in the studio was deafening. Salma walked toward the edge of the set, then turned back one final time. "You want to know the truth about being difficult?" she asked, addressing not just Kelly but the cameras, the audience, and everyone who would eventually watch this moment. "The truth is that difficult women change the world. We open doors that were locked. We speak truths that need to be heard. We refuse to accept that less than we deserve is enough." Kelly made one last attempt to salvage the situation. "Salma, I respect everything you've accomplished. I really do. Can we please start over?" Salma's smile was sad but resolute. "Kelly, respect isn't something you can claim after you've shown its absence. Respect is earned through actions, not words spoken in damage control." She moved toward the exit, her heels clicking against the studio floor in a rhythm that seemed to echo through the stunned silence, and for what it's worth, Salma added, pausing at the edge of the stage, "I hope someday you understand that interviewing someone means learning about them, not trying to diminish them. There's a difference between journalism and gossip, between holding people accountable and tearing them down." With those final words, Salma Hayek walked off The Kelly Clarkson Show, leaving behind a studio full of people who had just witnessed something unprecedented. Something real. Something that would be talked about long after the cameras stopped. Kelly sat alone in her chair, staring at the empty space where one of Hollywood's most respected actresses had just delivered a masterclass in dignity, strength, and the true cost of standing up for yourself in an industry that often punishes women for refusing to stay small. The raw power of that moment, the unscripted truth of it, created a silence that spoke louder than any applause ever could. So what do you think happened here? Was Salma right to walk off, or should she have stayed to work through the conflict? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories like this one.